Good morning, third grade. It's such a beautiful day outside today, and it's actually National Bike Day, if you didn't know. So hopefully you can get on your bike and spend some time outside. So before we read, as usual, let's go through our daily assignments. You have a lot of really fun things today to work on, so I'm going to go ahead and share those with you, okay? So today is always busy for us. We have our office hours, we have our afternoon small groups, and then you also have Mr. Kirby's Zoom meeting at 11 o'clock. So don't forget to join that session with him. I heard it's been a lot of fun. For reading today, you are reading chapter 23, and then you are completing your book club role. So that starts on slide 14 under week 3. Okay, so make sure you go down to your correct slide. A lot of you are asking me questions every week. Am I supposed to do the sideways stories comprehension slides? No, my friends, you are just doing your book club activity, whatever your role is for today. So I've switched all of your colors, so go ahead and look and see what you are doing today. Star work, I'm really proud of this student for her interview questions that she asked. They were so thoughtful, so insightful, and these are questions that I actually was wondering. We all know Mrs. Jewell is a little bit wacky, so these are good questions. So good job to our star work role model for today. Today in writing, you are writing your final draft of the most important invention. So make sure that you include everything that you edited in all your revisions from yesterday. And I wanted to tell you that last week, almost every single person in the entire class added their title. We were only a few people short. So I know that you can accomplish that goal today. Your math is lesson 10, so you are solving word problems using liquid volume. I really like the little bar models or tape models that we've used in class previously, so these will help you to solve these problems. All right, and then in social studies, you're doing something a little bit different today. You're also actually doing like a mini little hawk talk on your opinion of the eucalyptus trees, whether you think you want them or not. So you have brainstormed, you have come up with positives, you've come up with negatives. Yesterday, you went through some additional resources. So today, you are going to give a little mini hawk talk on CISA and record yourself explaining what your opinion is. So all the instructions are on slide 10 for you, but just like you were doing a hawk talk in class, I want an introduction, I want your 3 reasons, and I want your conclusion, and I want you to look the camera in the eye, so just like you were in class. Tomorrow, you'll actually be writing your final draft. You'll be typing it on the last slide, but I think it's really good to say it out loud before you type it. And then that is it. So, lots of fun things going on today. Okay. So we are on the chapter about the royal breakfast. So the BFG and Sophie are having breakfast with the queen. So let's go ahead and see what happens. There was a frantic scurry among the palace servants, and orders were received from the queen that a 24-foot giant must be seated with her majesty in the great ballroom within the next half hour. The butler, an imposing personage named Mr. Tibbs, was in supreme command of all the palace servants, and he did the best he could in the short time available. A man does not rise to become the queen's butler unless he is gifted with extraordinary ingenuity, adaptability, versatility, dexterity, cunning, sophistication, sagacity, discretion, and a host of other talents that neither you nor I possess. Mr. Tibbs had them all. That was a mouthful, wasn't it? He was in the butler's pantry sipping an early morning glass of light ale when the order reached him. In a split second, he made the following calculations in his head. The normal 6-foot man requires a 3-foot high table to eat off. A 24-foot giant will require a 12-foot high table to eat off. And if a 6-foot man requires a chair with a 2-foot high seat, a 24-foot giant will require a chair with an 8-foot high seat. Everything Mr. Tibbs told himself must be multiplied by 4. I bet you knew that, my friends. 2 breakfast eggs must become 8. 4 rashers of bacon must become 16. 3 pieces of toast must become 12, and so on. Calculations about food were immediately passed on to Monsieur Papillon. The royal chef. Mr. Tin skimmed into the ballroom. Butlers don't walk, they skim on the ground, followed by a whole army of footmen. The footmen all wore knee breeches, and every one of them displayed beautifully rounded calves and ankles. There is no way you can become a royal footman unless you have a well-turned ankle. It is the first thing they look for when you are interviewed. Push the grand piano into the center of the room, Mr. Tibbs whispered. Butlers never raise their voices above the softest whisper. 4 footmen moved the piano. Now fetch a large chest of drawers and put it on top of the piano. 3 other footmen fetched a very fine Chippendale mahogany chest of drawers and placed it on top of the piano. That will be his chair, Mr. Tibbs whispered. It is exactly 8 feet off the ground. Now we shall make a table upon which this gentleman may eat his breakfast in comfort. Fetch me 4 very tall grandfather clocks. There are plenty of them around the palace. Let each clock be 12 feet high. 16 footmen spread out around the palace to find the clocks. They were not easy to carry and required 4 footmen to each one. Place the 4 clocks in a rectangle 8 feet by 4 alongside the grand piano, Mr. Tibbs whispered. The footman did so. Now fetch me the young prince's ping-pong table, Mr. Tibbs whispered. The ping-pong table was carried in. Unscrew its legs and take them away. This was done. Now place the ping-pong table on top of the 4 grandfather clocks. To manage this, the footman had to stand on step ladders. Mr. Tibbs stood back to survey the new furniture. None of it is in the classic style, but it will have to do. He gave orders that a damask tablecloth should be draped over the ping-pong table, and in the end, it looked really quite elegant after all. At this point, Mr. Tibbs was seen to hesitate. The footmen all stared at him aghast. Butlers never hesitate, not even when they are faced with the most impossible problems. It is their job to be totally decisive at all times. Knives and forks and spoons. Mr. Tibbs was heard to mutter, our cutlery will be like little pins in his hands. But Mr. Tibbs didn't hesitate for long. Tell the head gardener, he whispered, that I require immediately a brand new unused garden fork and also a spade. And for a knife, we shall use the great sword hanging on the wall in the morning room. But clean the sword well first. It was last used to cut the head off of King Charles I, and there may still be a little dried blood on the blade. When all this had been accomplished, Mr. Tibbs stood near the center of the ballroom, casting his expert butler's eye over the scene. Have they forgotten anything? He certainly had. What about a coffee cup for a large gentleman? Fetch me the biggest jug you could find in the kitchen. A splendid 1-gallon porcelain water jug was brought in and placed on the giant's table beside the garden fork and the garden spade and the great sword. So much for the giant. Mr. Tibbs then had forgotten to move a small, delicate table and 2 chairs alongside the giant's table. This was for the queen and for Sophie. The fact that the giant's table and chair towered far above the smaller table simply could not be helped. All these arrangements were only just completed when the queen, now fully dressed in a trim skirt and cashmere cardigan, entered the ballroom holding Sophie by the hand. A pretty blue dress that had once belonged to one of the princesses had been found for Sophie, and to make her look prettier still, the queen had picked up a superb sapphire brooch from her dressing table and pinned it on the left side of Sophie's chest. The BFG followed behind them, but he had an awful job getting through the door. He had to squeeze himself through on his hands and knees, with 2 footmen pushing him from behind and 2 pulling him from the front. But he got through in the end. He had removed his black cloak and got rid of his trumpet and was now wearing his ordinary simple clothes. As he walked across the ballroom, he had to stoop quite a lot to avoid hitting the ceiling. Because of this, he failed to notice an enormous crystal chandelier. Crash went his head right into the chandelier. A shower of glass fell upon the poor BFG. Gunghummers and bogs winkles, what was that? It was Louis XV, the queen said, looking slightly put off. He's never been in a house before, Sophie said. Mr. Tibbs scowled. He directed 4 footmen to clear up the mess. Then, with a disdainful little wave of the hands, he indicated to the giant that he should seat himself on top of the chest of drawers, on top of the grand piano. What a fizz, whizzling, blush one can see, cried the BFG. I is going to be a bug at snagging a rug in here. Does he always speak like that? The queen asked. Quite often. He gets tangled up with his words. The BFG sat down on the chest of drawers, piano, and gazed in wonder around the ballroom. My gumdrops, what a spiffling waxy room he's in! It is so gigantic, I is needing binoculars and telescopes to see what's going on at the other end. Women arrived carrying silver trays with fried eggs, bacon, sausages, and fried potatoes. At this point, Mr. Tibbs realized that in order to serve the BFG at his 12-foot high grandfather clock table, he'd have to climb off on one of the tall step ladders. What's more, he must do it balancing a huge warm plate on the palm of one hand and holding a gigantic silver coffee pot on the other. A normal man would have flinched at the thought of it, but good butlers never flinch. Up he went, up and up and up, while the Queen and Sophie watched him with great interest. It is possibly they were both secretly hoping he would lose his balance and go crashing to the floor. But good butlers never crash. At the top of the ladder, Mr. Tibbs, balancing like an acrobat, poured the BFG's coffee and placed the enormous plate before him. On the plate, there were 8 eggs, 12 sausages, 16 rashers of bacon, and a heap of fried potatoes. What is this, please, your Magister? The BFG asked, peering down at the Queen. Oh, that was a close one. My computer almost went flying down, and now I'm not quite sure what's playing. Uh-oh. There we go. Phew. That could have been disastrous. He has never eaten anything except snaz crumbers before in his life, and they taste revolting. And I think that was my sign that we should probably stop reading this chapter before my computer goes tumbling. So, boys and girls, I will see you at 10 o'clock this morning for office hours. Have a great morning and enjoy your day. Okay? Bye, everyone.